Hey everyone, welcome to Small Batch Devs. My name is Austin.
And I'm Elliot. Today we're going to be talking about Firebase. We're going to go over some of the key features as well as integrating it into our blog application.
So let's get started.
So what is Firebase? Firebase is a backend as a service, which means you can build serverless apps. So Firebase will manage all of the server architecture. Firebase has a lot of features. It comes with authentication, so you can log in, log out, manage users. It comes with 2 different databases. It also has file storage, so you can store pictures, PDFs, and it also comes with cloud functions, so you can write short functions that will run in the cloud based on different triggers.
Firebase also provides the ability for your app to be real-time. So whenever data in your database in Firebase changes, the app will update automatically and it will just provide a more seamless experience for your users. There are also more advanced features that have to do with data, such as offline mode. So whenever your app goes offline, if it goes offline, it won't really seem like it because it can cache the data locally, and then once your app comes back online, it will push the data up to Firebase.
So why would you use Firebase? Well, it's easy, it's cheap, and it vastly decreases the time from going from a prototype app to a production-ready app.
Firebase is also a part of the Google Cloud Platform ecosystem, so it is a legit product. There is also built-in security, and also there's no server maintenance involved for you as a developer. So whenever you need to scale your app up or down, Google Cloud Platform will handle that for you. So let's talk a little bit more about the database inside of Firebase. Just as a preface, there is a real-time database and then there is also a Firestore. We're going to be integrating the Firestore in our app, in our blog app a little bit later. So we're just going to cover that for now. So what is Cloud Firestore? It is a NoSQL database. It allows for very complex querying and filtering in your apps.
The structure of the Firestore database comes in documents and collections. So the top level of your database is going to have a bunch of collections, and each of those collections will have a lot of documents, and then each document can have sub-collections and so on and so on. Firestore also comes with security rules for your database, so it allows you to have fine-grained security based on who's logged in, who's authenticated, different rules that you come up with for different collections, and it also supports transaction and batch writing. So what that means is a transaction write either all of your data writes or none of it does. Now let's jump into the Firebase console and create a new project. Just go ahead and create a quick account and you'll be on this page that we're at right now. So we're gonna go ahead and create a project and we're just gonna name it SBD blog since that's what our repo is called. Accept the terms, sign your life away. You can enable Google Analytics. It does help down the line whenever you're using some of these more advanced products, so we're going to go ahead and leave it on. We're just going to hit all of the defaults. And there we go. Now we're creating our project. All right, our new project is ready. And here you can see we're just in the console. Pretty cool view here. You've got all of your development, so authentication. This is where you can create users, delete users. Your database, this is where we're going to be doing most of our work with Firestore, and you can see we do need to initialize our Firestore database before we can use it, so we're going to hit create database. So we're going to start our Firebase database in test mode, and what this does is it gives us a 30-day buffer to read and write without any permissions. So what this is really good for is getting your database up and running, but then in 30 days Firebase comes back and prohibits that to where you need to add security rules that we mentioned earlier to restrict access and protect yourself. So we're just going to hit next, and we're going to keep the defaults. Alright, and this is the Firestore console. So as soon as we start adding data here, you'll see our collections start to populate, and then we can click on those collections and go as deep as we want into the data tree that we'll set up eventually. Just a quick note, right here in the top left you can see rules. This is where you'll define your security rules for how people can access your data and write to it. The last tab on the right is the usage tab, so this is going to be important when you get into really heavy traffic on your site and you're going to start using some of the billing aspects. You can kind of track your usage here and see how much you're going to be paying for this service.
The next step here is to install the Firebase CLI. We need the Firebase CLI in order to initialize our project as a Firebase project. We'll need it to deploy our app, to deploy cloud functions, and there's a bunch of other things built into the Firebase CLI. So let's go ahead and jump into our terminal in IntelliJ and run npm install -g, so it's global Firebase -tools. Give that a second to install. Okay, so now that that is installed, we need to log in, so we'll run Firebase login.
And running this just associates your login information with your Firebase CLI so that you can access all of your projects you've set up.
Correct. And we do want to remain anonymous, so let's hit no here. This will open up a Google Chrome window, so we can, just a Google login window, so we can just log in through the web page. Woohoo!
And there you go. Woohoo!
Firebase CLI login successful.
While we're still in the terminal, we're going to go ahead and install one more package, and that's the AngularFire package. And what it does is it takes Firebase's basic commands and wraps them so it's in an observable structure. And that works really nicely with Angular 9 because Angular 9 also uses observables in its code. So now we're going to run Firebase Init, and what this does is it links your local app directory with your Firebase project on Google servers. It also generates a couple of files, one of which is the firebase.json, and that just allows you to modify some of the configs for your Firebase project. So we've got some really cool CLI effects in here. They took the time to write out Firebase
with hashtags.
With hashtags. Some computers you're on will actually be little fire emojis, so that's cool. We're going to hit yes to proceed, and it's going to ask us which Firebase features we want to enable. We're just going to enable the Firestore database for now, and we're going to select the project we created earlier in the Firebase console, and we're just going to keep going with the defaults here. So our Firebase rules file will just be called firestore.rules, and we're just going to keep using the defaults here. And there we go. Our project has been initialized. So now we can search for the Firebase.json, and these are our config.
The next thing we have to do is generate an API key for our app to know how to talk with Firebase. So if we go into the Firebase console here, we can just hit this web button for adding an app to get started. Just give our app a nickname. We can just give it the same nickname, SPD blog, and register app. Once that's done generating, you'll see we will get a bunch of different information for registering our app with Firebase. So we're going to copy some of this information into our IntelliJ window, into our project here. The first being the Firebase config. So we're in the environments.ts file right here, which is in source environments. Copy this in. Change this to a colon. It is like by default in just HTML and JavaScript, and we need to obviously convert it to TypeScript here. These last two lines here, the Firebase Initialize app and Firebase Analytics, they'll go in the app.module. So you can see the last two lines here, they have the Initialize app and the Analytics. We're not going to use the Analytics, and we're also going to use the AngularFire version of this. So in our app.modules file here, we're just going to import a couple additional things that will basically do the same thing as you see here. Okay, now that we have those in there, our app should be able to communicate with Firebase, and we're all set up.
Okay, now that we've got Firebase initialized, we're going to go ahead and start updating our code. You can see on the left-hand side that we have our ng-serve running, so we are running our blog locally. We still have dummy data. The first thing we're going to do is get rid of that dummy data and change our database service to use AngularFire database calls. So let's get started doing that.
Cue the music. Cue the music.
So here you can see we updated our get posts to use the database collection. We're going to be grabbing an array from Firebase, and we're going to get back a bunch of blog posts. We are typecasting it here, so that helps out. And we're using value changes. You can see here we're using value changes as opposed to snapshot changes. And the difference there is snapshot changes gives you more information about the data that was changed, like what was added, what was modified, what was deleted. The only issue is you have to then map down and search for the data in those snapshot documents. So value changes just gives us a much quicker way to the data when you don't care what was added, updated, or deleted. And because this is an observable and we're using value changes and we're using Firebase, we will get updates in real time in our application. And you can see now that we have saved these changes, our blog is actually clear of all the dummy data, and we have quite a few issues to fix now that we're using observables rather than static data.
First thing we're going to do is dive into our homepage component.
So we've got kind of a complex observable going on. The edit post we've built so that it serves as a create new component as well as an edit component for existing posts. And so what this observable here helps us do is differentiate between whether it's a new post or an existing post. So we're going to start with the Angular router. We're going to grab our ID for that post from the Angular router, and then we're going to run it through a filter and a custom function called object exists. This is just a null check to make sure we're not using a null UID. And then we're going to go through a switch map, and what this switch map is designed to do is that if you were on an edit page, you would pull down that post so you could edit it. And that's what the database.getPost does at the end of this line. But if it's not an existing post, you want to still have a blank form and use that UID so that you can create a new post. And so that's what our combined latest is doing, is that you're passing down the UID and also trying to get a post to see if it does exist. And so in our map, we're using that UID and post to build our forms. So if the post exists, we're going to use all of those post properties to populate the form. If it doesn't exist, we're going to initialize those values with empty strings, except for the UID, which we're going to use the UID we got from the Angular router.
So let's go ahead and just demo this real quick. Make a new post, and you can see over here in the URL, we're actually on the edit component. Like Elliot mentioned, this is one component for adding and editing. So let's just create a title and a body. We're going to save it. Doesn't really look like much happened, but if we go back to the home page, you can see we have a title, or a post with a title rather, and a body. And then we can hit the edit button and it loads in the data into that same edit component that we just created. And we also do have a read component here. Not too pretty, but it's functional. So yeah, that is using Firebase.
Okay, one last thing is that you can now go back to the Firebase console, go to your Firestore database, and you can see that the data we've created is here. You can see our topmost level is a posts collection. Underneath it, it has one post. That's a document with our UID that we created in the URL. And you can see all of the data we've written to this post. And if we just update the title or the body, you'll see that immediately reflected in the database right here. You can see it updated. And then if we also update it in the database, you can see it immediately updated in the app. And this is one of the perks of using Firebase, is that it's got this real-time update feature. All right, in this episode, we covered the introduction of Firebase and integrated the Firestore database into our ongoing blog application. We hope you all learned a lot.
And if you have any comments or suggestions for us, please let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, as well as hit the ring bell thing somewhere around here on this YouTube channel. I don't know where it is yet because it started. Yeah.
So thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Have a good one. Bye.
See ya. Ta-ta.